Greetings, greetings, greetings. Tapping in with y'all. Peace, peace, peace. Let's see. Trying to tap to get this lighting correct. I'm real big on like lighting. Let's give honor to Source, give honor to the Creator, the Most High, for all that there is right now that's happening, that's unfolding. Where am I gonna start with this? Where am I gonna start with this? I had to plug my phone up because I don't know how long the duration of this video. First and foremost, bear with me right now. Clap it up for yourself. How far along you come along on your journey to be where we are right now. Probably hear the air cut in and out where I'm at in this room, so whatever, just let's just stay focused. Little inner child things. The library I go to, they offer kids toys and stuff, so I got this it's almost like a good luck charm in a way. I brought this elephant. I learned something about, I forgot, is it Indian culture or just, it may not even be related to India, but normally when an elephant has its trunk up, it's a celebration. And right now it is a celebration in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. But today it's a celebration. When the trunk comes up, and I believe like even when they have like a baby or a new life comes in, elephant trunks comes up in a way of celebration. Now you can look that up, but that's something I found very interesting when I got this little toy that, again, they offer kids that when they clean up toys in the library. Toys in the library, that they have this treasure box, and shout out to them. They have this treasure box where kids can come after they clean up and get a toy. And I told I always send this message about inner child. Before I get there, let's give an honor to Source, our ancestors known and unknown, all those that came before us, divine mother and father. So let's always give gratitude for everything and all this being possible. But again, I told myself, I'm like, look, I deserve a toy too. And the beauty of this video is going to relate to a lot of things with allowing ourselves to receive, let go, and like, again, I go into different sections of things, but there's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna actually share something from the new book that I just published. I'm actually share some storylines or a book about things about the experience as well. But this was very significant to me. It's like the little boy in me, no matter our age, I was like, yo, I need a toy too. So this stuck out to me very importantly, because I had to learn to celebrate myself and get something to celebrate myself. And it doesn't always have to be materialistically, but that's a way of how I realized, like, you know what? It's time I be open to receive, whether it's celebrating myself, pouring in myself, and doing more of that, no matter how it looks to other people. Whether it can be very intimidating with the confidence and the security that I've had to build the courage to protect that inner child. It's almost like fighting for custody, almost, to get back that innocence and reclaim that power, that innocence of who I've always been, and the confidence in that, and the feeling safe and secure again, emotionally, mentally, which I'm going to dive into more about the emotional aspect of what probably been coming up a lot for us, and individually for myself. So this was huge to me. So I wish I could place it so y'all can see it, but it's a celebration. And I love the elephant because I will eventually soon meet elephants, and not in no zoo, because I don't subscribe to zoos and stuff like that. I've never did. I really thrive off things that are liberated, in a liberated space. So I would rather see an elephant in the Sahara or somewhere else rather than locked away in something. To each their own. But this I'm just gonna go right into it. Like, I've been having a lot of things come up in me. Y'all always hear me talk about, the inner child, and my partner with the book that I referenced before, The Body Keeps a Score, and as she's been reading these things, what she has been, learning through her own experience, and as she's been reading it, I just want to get the lighting. As she's been reading it, she's been sharing it with me, and it's brought me so much insight on how the brain, the mind, and the body keeps a score and so forth. And like before, what is this? Oh man, I have to breathe. That's been one of my biggest things, boy. It's breathing. And yeah, because when I be getting focused, some things come in as a distraction, but I have to breathe and stay present. Before I get into this emotional things and what's been coming up for me, I would love to read like a part of this book to y'all. In one of my previous videos, I shared about this book, which is it's so cool how it looks just like me, bro. But The Generational Curse Breaker. And for those of you who are new, I created this art, and I created the art and self-published and self-written this book. You know what I'm saying? There are some things in there that some people may read and be like, "Yo, is that a typo?" Yes, that is. Yeah, it is very much. It is very much. I have also, through my journey with getting here, it has been a very unwavering, a lot of courage to getting back into writing. I don't know if I said this on a previous video. Come on, throat. But I was always been a great, amazing writer. Now, speller, when someone who's, not in the spiritual sense, but people who, how they tell you how to spell words or the correct thing. Now, I had a little trouble with that growing up, but at the same moment, it's so wild because now with writing my books or publishing them, I do my own language. And I just feel like it's like the innocence in it, like I can get away with it. Like, it's my world in the sense of like my universe. I'm bringing you in my world. Like someone may say over there, then someone may say over there, like DER, whatever. Your language, universal, so forth. The beauty of this is how, again, you can see the messages on here that relate, like mother wounds and childhood traumas and abandonment issues. And, I'm going to share with you in here, just in my words and from my experience. And so that, what this book, it's not so much what it means, it's the value and how I rebuilt my confidence, my value in how I approach myself, and then how it has shown me how my interaction with my childhood, my experiences, my present moment, and then the future with, from the youth to the generation that's coming, generation after. So these are some experiences that I've had that were very, very challenging to write. And it really showed me how to channel and breathe and be aware of how I was feeling. Some of these things that I wrote, I was crying about. And because I couldn't hold on. And that's why I was telling you how the body keeps a score. Whether in our brain with images, through our neurotransmitters, in our minds, what else? Just emotionally, again, all those things are connected to the body. So now what my approach is, again, being bridged from the youth, from the generation before me, the elders, to the youth, is very vital because, it's so important what we are sharing and instilling, but also keeping that shit a buck. You know, speaking all language, like keeping it 100, integrity, however you want to express it. It's just that's just what it is. And then the confidence, like there's nothing that can shake the confidence that I have recovered or reclaimed. It's like it is what it is. So, the first page I'm gonna get into is called "The Life of a Generational Curse Breaker." Staring into my daughter's eyes, bearing witness to a generation that will soon give birth to many nations. The emotional impact and responsibility day to day, breath after breath, knowingly and unknowingly impacting an innocent soul into a rite of passage towards a journey of peace or war, self-hatred or self-love, deep insecurities or self-confidence. A list almost certainly containing unfulfilled dreams, subconscious fears of my own internal battle. Even though my parents didn't know the importance of watering said flower, represent me as a flower, with healthy connections, which led me here. Nothing being perfect, at times reenacting generational traumas of aggression towards a being so precious as a delicate rose. As she looks into my eyes, frightened by my tone of voice, subconscious rage, knowing someday those tears that cried I created falling from those eyes. Will her body keep the record of those moments I couldn't see the innocence in myself, while her purity illuminated, and I decided to yell impulsively, assuming I embrace her softly when she knows it's an aggressive approach, leaving her in a confused, vulnerable state like, aren't you the one who helped bring me here? I didn't ask for this treatment, Dad. My guilt sets in, connecting the past childhood traumas to the present moment. Self-awareness sets in. What have I done? What have you done to yourself? Isn't this a version and a reflection of you? Aren't you teaching her a love language? Aren't you teaching her a love language to receive from a patriarchal and men that shall come after you? As the anger and frustration consume my mind, the guilt, shame crashes in as my tears overwhelmingly rise like an unbearable 200-foot tidal wave, highlighting my emotional unavailability, reconnecting to the generational wounds embedded within my DNA, triggering cycles of pain, anxiety, and abuse. Am I living out the karma or recreating it? Just give me one moment. I have to even stretch and breathe because so much even comes up reading that, like, it's like so much tension and some like things come up even when I read that I'm still learning to like literally get through, work through, breathe through, cry through, so forth. And you know, I'll dive into details about this. That one is called just The Life of a Generational Curse Breaker. And that from just that experience, you know, from the beginning, staring into my daughter's eyes, it's like there's moments where I've had to sit back and reflect on my whole life to see how far I've come and give gratitude, but also be reminded that I connected with her mother at a time to where we brought this child here. My awareness was not the same then, when a lot of us are not aware that we're still meeting people at a place where some of us can be led or be leading by, whether it be a sexual desire, whether it be lust, or whether it even be from a place of love or of innocence, or even learning from a belief system or culture where we're leading with some may perceive in the spiritual community, or conscious community, of a lower nature, which is like, just leading with said sex, not leading with the awareness of like, a child can be created from this, or the deeper aspect of it, how ancestrally that person has a lineage, this person has a lineage, they're both different bloodlines, and then you're coming together, meshing together, and you're recreating in that process another life. And with that other life, here it is that your generational traumas, unresolved traumas from you, your mother, her mother, great-grandmother, her father, her great-grandfather, man, the list goes on and on. And then that other part, because it's not separating, it's the individualism, or the individual itself, which still, in some type of way, we're connected, whether it be through our experiences, whether it be through pain, whether it be through life. And so divinely ordained, or divine, how things are like orchestrated, is that we had to come together. And then what I've learned over time, the awareness on how this child was given, almost like a gift. And even with that, it's like a gift and a curse. And the reason I say the beauty of the gift is like the awareness how much my life changed when I saw this beautiful little girl, when I realized like, nothing's ever going to be the same. You know that, right? But then the curse aspect, with the frustration, all these things that are highlighted, where I've learned now, which I'm going to get into, is about how to learn the emotional intelligence aspect of how I am now, and being more present and in tune with myself, has a lot to do with why this child came. And it's not just the child, it's the energy this child came in, it's the awareness. And also, as a little girl, she's more emotional as a little boy. It's not to say a child isn't emotional, but her individualism, or just who she is from a father lens to a daughter, she's going to mirror back that feminine aspect, the things I do not want to see, that I've spoken about, that is internalized, and on many different levels, pertaining mostly to the emotional, to the feminine attributes. So with that even, like, I realized like the responsibility around that, like, as I say, like, bearing witness to the generation that soon will give birth to many nations. If it's her purpose in this lifetime to bring forth life, that's the saying how the responsibility, the emotional impact, the day-to-day, the knowing and unknowing, when I'm not even aware of said behavior patterns that sometimes we're not even aware of, that we are karmically creating, unconsciously, due to our subconscious fears, due to our own internal battle, as I stated. And so, and not to mention, that's just on a patriarchal side. Now with her mother's side, which a lot of people, which I know this is definitely going to help so many people, or support so many people, when a lot of us are not giving said blueprint on these things, on where there can be so much frustration around a baby mother or baby father, and just even those terms are even disgusting. It's like learning the process of this unlearning and relearning, which, whomever you had a child with, is that person's unlearning, as I was, and then realizing the impact, how it will ripple to that child, no matter who you are, whether you want to be aware of it or not. And then you wonder why they display certain behaviors. It's because you're literally mirroring back what you have unresolved to that child, and they're mirroring back to you only a pure essence of innocence, and most likely still had inherited some type of energy, energetically, through generations. And so that's why the beauty of this generational curse breaker is speaking about experiences, not just from a healthy lens. I'm speaking about an unhealthy lens as well, because in order for me to see the light, I have to see the dark. You cannot have a star without the darkness. So that is the yin and yang aspect. And so Um, Even me noting how, even though my parents did not know the importance of watering me, okay, I have the responsibility now of watering me. Because what I realized is that they couldn't water me if they never watered themselves. And so now there's a greater responsibility and awareness now that I must pour into myself first in order to reciprocate that, or expect that in return. So that's the thing, that it can be very challenging when you're unlearning self-sabotaging behavior patterns with culture and programming of, this is how I'm supposed to treat a woman, this is how I'm supposed to view women. And even in that way, what the thing was so disgusting about that is how that is so normalized, how we just were programmed to see men and women as almost like a byproduct, or just not just a product of their environment, but just sexualized, or just in such a devaluing way. And so when you're asking or being programmed to do that, the little boy and girl in them that isn't taught or have a foundation in anything that's rooted in integrity, truth, and authenticity, they're going to mask this into adulthood, which that little boy and girl is still there, which I always talk about. And we will find ourselves unintentionally hurting people, which we're hurting ourselves, which these relationships are literally just mirroring back the instability, whether emotionally, mentally, spiritually, within ourselves, and we see it play out in the physical. So that's why when I said, which leads me here, nothing being perfect, at times reenacting generational traumas of aggression towards a being so precious as a delicate rose. So bringing you into my world, I've had moments, again, of unhealthy patterns, unaware that I didn't realize how much the body, the mind, the spirit, and so forth have kept the score of what I went through in my childhood. So that being said, channeling and wondering where this aggression came from leads me right into this. How many of us have allowed ourselves to be angry, to allow the emotions to come up of how we were treated in our childhood? That was one of the biggest things to where I recognize in my relationships or presently with someone, that the body that keeps the score talks about how certain sounds, certain smells, certain things that can be triggering in our adulthood, and we're not even aware. And one thing about me, growing up in a combative or loud environment, certain sounds, certain things, like even just from my experience, one thing about I'm learning that connects me even to my childhood is like my daughter. I have a powerful voice, so my daughter, like literally, like her scream is not like any other child. Her crying, her everything is not like any other child. So when I say, like, seeing this being as a gift and a curse, it's not in a devaluing way. The curse is the gift, and the gift is the curse, in a way of like the yin and yang, one and the same. It's all perspective, because I'm like, I have to be aware that in that moment when I co-created with her mother, where was my awareness? Where was I wounded? And this is where the beauty of this is, that a lot of us created, and this has been generations, a lot of us have been created or created babies from a place of trauma, both man and woman. The beauty of the awareness, where the healing comes in, is when we become aware as generational curse breakers, that to be aware of said trauma, of experience, the body keeping the score. And then what also has energetically and generationally been passed through the wombs of our mothers, and even the bodies of our fathers. Because again, once you have this individual and this individual meeting, they're still genetically inheriting, whatever that father was living out energetically. unresolved traumas, the mother, unresolved traumas. And typically a lot of, what we don't realize that goes on in the wombs of our mothers, even with that interaction with the man and the community that surrounds her, that child is picking up on. That child, again, her and that child are one. And even that father, I always give reference to and much love to Nana City, who was a a midwife who transitioned out of the body years ago. But she always said that, she told my partner at the time before we had our child, she said, now that baby is going to pick up on not just you, but also him. And I feel like this is the thing that we have to what's being brought to awareness, that as much as we want to separate ourselves, yes, we are individuals, but we are one when it comes to, the universal law of the universal love of the oneness of everything. As much as a lot of our women want to separate a lot of things, push the man away, where are you doing that from? Is it from a wounded place? Same thing with men. As much as we want to push and say that this person is this, as much as you push, there's a pull. What is it bringing back to yourself? And this is what I realized as I was connecting my aggression and not aware at the time, is that I have to be reminded how me and her mother met. Where was I? And this is where I was reading up on the chakra systems and learning about like how certain chakra systems, if you want to research this, to each their own, how a lot of us don't realize, like when you're interacting with a lot of people and at a place of like the lower state, or even where the root chakra, some may call it, they may call it different in the Sanskrit aspect. But when you read and research about like stability, security, certain things, the sacral and the solar plexus, all of these things energetically, we have a connection to that reference the energetic body, the emotional body. So when you are connecting with said people, are you really connecting from a place of security? And so this is why you hear people like, when you intertwine with people and so forth, you pick up on their energy and then you connect with them, and what end up happening when you co-create from that energy is literally passed. That child inherit either some type of energy to where even when they incarnate or come here, there's still an innocence, because they're here and their awareness is more heightened than even ours, because it's almost like they're not delusional. They're just more aware than what we think we are, because we've been so deep into programming to where we've allowed the world to try to dictate who we are and how we should live and so forth. They come in this innocent and pure, illuminating this purity, and our programming can be so deep to where we want to control that. We want to, what we call discipline, but in reverence, control it. And so from my experience, it's just me, I don't mind at all. When I say that my daughter has this powerful voice and so forth, even her crying, I had to realize like the crying aspect literally triggered or brought me to the awareness of, if I grew up in combative and confrontational environments that wasn't stable in love or nurturing, and then that first love being that mother, I have to ask myself, where is the disconnect from myself emotionally to her emotions, where I don't feel safe to allow her to express it? So the awareness around that is like, what am I needing to see about myself to break that generational curse, to where, again, we've already seen cycles and cycles of trauma where our women, and beginning where they were little girls, aren't able to feel liberated, aren't able to express their anatomy or their autonomy, or just express who they are naturally, organically. So am I that's why at the end of it I say, am I recreating the trauma or, generational pattern, or am I here to break it, liberate it? So that, again, a lot of our connections, when we meet people, are they sent to mirror back to illuminate our deepest insecurities? And it don't matter the relationship. See, the connection with, my connection with the mother is completely different than the daughter. Then I ask myself, why is it that I can see the innocence in the child, but what is keeping me from seeing the innocence in her mother? So when I read about that, and I'm saying like this, a time, at times reenacting generational traumas of aggression towards a being so precious, as delicate as a rose, as I reference that, I realized like, I was never treated delicately. I was, I had my partner ask me that a couple days ago. Have you ever like really been nurtured? No. And it was challenging, because this is the thing where, speaking with a therapist and talk therapy and so forth, it's like a lot of us have been through so many traumatic experiences to where we have repressed it so long. We have suppressed it over the years. We were never asked, and still never asked. A lot of us have never been asked, well, how did you feel from that situation? How are you feeling now? How does that make you feel that your mother walked away or yelled at you? How does it make you feel? And as I'm learning this, I realize how much my body has kept the score of those memories. When I realized how did I feel from being abandoned such a young age and I was never asked, or after I was yelled at abruptly or cursed out and so forth. And even when I try to voice it, I was punished or beaten or something like that, or immediately shunned and silenced. So that right there, when you start to learn the chakra system, the throat chakra, this is why now I speak about certain things, because of confidence that when I share these things now, it's something I had to reclaim. I had to reclaim this within myself, and even with the interactions with said people, gaining that power back, from that mother, and let her know this hurt me. Even though you never asked me how I felt after you whooped me, because of you didn't know how to control your emotions, or your body has kept the score over the years from what you have been, how you've been treated by men and so forth, or the foundations that you have experienced were never stable, were never healthy. And a lot of us have went through these experiences with said people, said characters, and now that we're here, we have never been asked the question, especially in communities that I grew up in, darker shaded people. We have never been asked, how are you? How did that make you feel? Why did you make that decision? Are you okay now? And it's so deep for me is because I had to tell my partner, like, I have went through things with women that probably most men have never experienced. And it's not to outweigh anybody else's journey. It's the awareness around, like, I used to question myself. Why did I have to go through that? Why did she treat me like that? Well, it's not a victimhood. It's the awareness around, like, I'm now allowing myself to experience that anger. I'm allowing myself for that emotion to come up. I can feel a sense of relief now. And now I realize through certain relationships why I craved or seeked out that one of my greatest love language was affection. And a person that have experienced some type of physical abuse, sometimes can be fidgety or hesitant on certain things. And now I come to the realizations, like, my body has kept the score of those whoopings, those people in my mind's eye. And you know, the body that keeps the body keeps the score. The book was referencing that, like the memories that come up, how it sends the body into a place of fight or flight. And so now navigating through this, I realized, like, you know, the life of a generational curse breaker, as I'm reading that and as I'm sharing it with you all, I realized, like, sometimes we want to, we have to allow yourself to experience those things. Because I was telling someone, like, I used to get caught up. I got caught up in trying to be the perfect person, perfect partner, the perfect lover, the perfect father. All those things, I would get so distracted by trying to be the perfect thing. And in reality, what it was showing me is that I was trying to mask myself from feeling, from being aware of the memories, of the certain things that kept me in that fight or flight state. I was keeping myself from actually experiencing, breathing through what I needed to feel, because I was never allowed as a child. Even the fact that I was never allowed doesn't keep me from now doing it now, being present with it now. And so that's why I feel like the blockages, when you read about the chakra or chakra systems, it will show you more like where the blockages are in the body. And I was telling someone, you don't hear this a lot shared in the darker community. And then even in what it was, you have people who were so-called wannabe spiritualists and so-called this, you know, a lot of things was just centered around accumulating some type of money from it. You know, not really going into details and really saying, like, hey, yo, do you know about this? Okay, even though I know you believe in this, let me plant the seed. Let me see how I can correlate this and connect this to the fact of, like, yo, you have emotions, right? Okay, let me share this with you. You know, have you had an emotional, intelligent man in your life? Men and women. No, you haven't, right? Okay. So if I'm speaking to you about something that, even though, which I realize like a lot of people fear what they don't understand or overstand, has a lot to do with the security. They don't even know why. A lot of people are, they've masked themselves so deeply emotionally and attached themselves to a lot of things, whether it be religion, monetary, you know, a lot of things externally, which still, no matter how you look at it, reflects your internal world, your internal foundation, your belief system, and so forth. This is why a lot of the awakening and a lot of things are happening spiritually, mentally, emotionally on these levels, because you are more than just this material, just what you see in the physical. And so, you know, I'm able and I'm grateful that, again, at a time where I felt, how would I ever deliver this message? And that's why I was too focused on. It was already delivered. I just had to be the one to do it in, you know, in the divine's way, or like share it from my own experiences, and allow people to perceive or have their own perspective. So what? You know, and that's the thing where, again, over the years, the beauty of emotional intelligence, and realize the beauty of how and why you were given these said beautiful, you know, specimens, or I almost said creatures, but like these kids, or, you know, is because we don't even realize how much sometimes they mirror back our deepest insecurities, or our deepest parts of ourselves, even reminding us the joy that they just naturally have. And you know, the joy and the experience that they just naturally have, this imagination or amazement to just whatever experience it is. And so it was something else I was getting into. Okay, bringing up something that I experienced recently was the nurturing aspect. There was an experience I had recently where you know, speaking about it, like, you know, my voice being the bass and so forth, and had said something, and my daughter was just like, you know, just how she received it and being so small, she automatically went to this emotional state. And I was just like, now that I know the awareness now, it took me into a place like, yo, like stop, just like don't cry. Or it angered me because at the time, like, her brother was resting, and I think her mom was trying to take a nap, or it was something like that. Just, I think her brother was resting, and a lot of us know, like, the frustration around, look, I just put one to rest, like, now you, and so in that situation that was unfolding, it brought up the fact of, like, why isn't her emotions valid? Then as I start getting to deeper awareness around this, I start to realize, was my emotions normalized and important when I grew up? And why was it so frustrating to her express hers, or even the fact of how now I'm unlearning that I wasn't approached in a healthy way. I wasn't approached in an embracing, loving, nurturing way from probably all of my childhood. I mean, honestly, I don't even recall a memory of my mom hugging me because of the fact of whoopings or certain things. Yelling was just such a normal thing. So the sound or the crying it would become very frustrating. It was new. It would become new to me because something about, the fact of I know what it is to be consistently around screaming, yelling. So my mind or my body took that. I went into a fight or flight, or went into this, like my body went into this freeze, or just this frantic, overwhelming place, and not realizing it had nothing to do, her emotions had nothing to do with me, but I took it as if sometimes we don't even realize we take it as an attack on the body. Even when someone, my partner and I, like, we had exchanges where, sometimes we don't even realize that when our tone changes, that it can bring us to this state of immediately fight or flight. Like, we go into this protective place. I go into this protective place, and that's because of demographics that I grew up in. And this shit is so deep because you're dealing with people, or we have dealt with people, not realizing that their demographics, their foundations, and when we see abusive behaviors, or when we see aggressive behaviors, we're not even connecting the fact of how psychologically what they're experiencing, where their mind is going, how their body, what they feel. Why are they reacting this way? Why is their response that way? And see, this is the awareness of myself, and even experience with people with having been hurt by others when I could not protect myself, and then hurting others when not being aware that I'm going into this fight or flight and I don't have to. It's as deep as when I've spoken about driving or going somewhere, and due to the programming of how a darker man is viewed by the programming of policing. And there's nothing in these corporation country or certain places that it's we or myself, and I was telling my partner this, I haven't seen or been around consistent peacefulness or harmony. I haven't seen, visualized, because the body keeps the score. So the mind, some of our minds and our bodies haven't seen a consistent harmony and peace and balance of healthiness, healthy interaction. So when we're asked to be something, you're asking someone to go to a career, you're asking someone to go into a space, And there has not been no type of psychological treatment or anything that when they're going into this that leads them to a state of peace, satisfaction, joy, love. So when you're, this is another video I'll talk about, when you're asking said people to go into places when you don't know in that space if that person will naturally go into fight or flight. You don't know that from their demographics, from what they grew up in, how much their body has kept the score. You don't know their background, the depths of that. So, that shit hit me the other day, and I sat there, and I'm gonna tell you something so deep. I always like to just reference my height and my size, because it's like I want people to see the visual of, it's like reference the bigness, but at the same time to see the little boy. There was a moment where I had someone like in this, I'm trying to see how could I approach this. I've had over the years a lot of memories resurface on this healing journey. Like, as I've faced a lot of things internally, fears and so forth. I didn't know where they were coming from. I didn't know why. But then I would tell myself, there was a moment where I was trying to, this memory of my childhood came up, at a point like it was darkness in the house, and I had this exchange with someone, and their tone immediately took me into this place of fight or flight, and I didn't know why. So I approached them, and I grabbed them, and to see the look in their eyes was like scared. But for me, I told myself, I caught myself, but then I became aware of why I did it. Again, it was the sound of it immediately connected me to yelling in a childhood. And they meant no harm. It's just a way of how their tone, and then where I was at, and even the experience of it's almost like I felt like I was getting caught doing something. And then it brought up the fact of and this is really deep for a lot of men that probably have grown up in demographics, or a lot of us. It's really, I'm representing this from what I experienced in a darker community, or just my demographics, because this can be for a lot of people who also have dealt with growing up in a combative home, or a lot of verbal abuse, like yelling and stuff. Sometimes we don't even realize how it sends our body into this freeze state or fight or flight, to where when that interaction happened, there's this emphasis on darker people always being in trouble, bro. I was telling my partner, I was like, yo, this is something I never told nobody, but it's why do I feel that no matter what I do, and I know I connected this to my childhood, whatever I try to do right, that is perceived wronged, or I'm in trouble if I speak up, if I speak the truth, if I stand in my power, if I even show an ounce of even aggression or emotion. Why is there's this cloud over my head as a darker person, or darker, in a darker community, or communities that have dealt with said things, that in these demographics where there's not a lot of resources to, things where they can go to therapy and so forth. Why is there this emphasis that, whatever we do, there's trouble behind it, or he's trying to do something positive or do something great, and then, there's this attack on it, you're in trouble. And or why is it attacked like that? Why, things like that. Or, you're in trouble, so I'm gonna get you. So I'm trying to like express this. I know a lot of people can follow me to hear that will get this, but I just grew up in places where I felt like everything that everyone did in my demographics or certain experiences as a child, that they would get in trouble for. Don't do that. Don't talk back. Don't do this. Don't take that route least traveled. You'll get in trouble for that. Don't talk about who molested who in the family. Don't talk about, even in certain corporations how things are built. Don't talk about, don't go out there and tell your mom, those people that your mama whooped you. Don't go out there and tell, that they're doing drugs, this and that. You'll get in trouble. You'll get whooped. You'll get beaten. And it's so wildly how I realize with myself how a lot of us have never experienced nurturing environments. And what's so deep about this shit is like how literally we will self-sabotage certain relationships, ruin and destroy innocent people, lives, women especially, that have the pure intentions on nurturing us, or loving us in a way that we were never loved by our mothers. And you can reverse the roles. Same thing I see with a lot of women that will purposely, because of their self-sabotaging behavior, or seeing their mom manipulate men, or just seeing certain things, their belief system, they don't even know to the depths that led them to their present moment of their healing journey, or of whatever journey that they're on, that it literally, your belief system led you to where you are. And then the frustration in like, why couldn't my mom show me what a healthy connection was with a man? Or you never experienced that. So you get into relationships when you unconsciously don't even realize you purposely self-sabotage it because you never seen nothing committed externally, or your mother was never committed to her internally, meaning poured into herself. So again, it works both ways. You have people who want to commit, immediately say they want marriage, but don't know the depths of what it is to be in a marriage with self, or a union with self, with what it is to love self. So like, booyah. I ain't heard that term in a long time. Booyah. So, this is the thing of how we're meeting each other. You're meeting these people, but we never ask what really has happened in your childhood. What can you tell me? What's your deepest fears? We all see the physical and don't realize like the vices that come with people, the spiritual warfare, and getting back even into like, I can say purposely that due to my behavior patterns or belief systems that a lot of men won't even acknowledge, like, bro, sis, or honestly, like, I can see how I like unintentionally ruined people's life, or projected traumas, or instilled fear, or projected certain things into their life, and not even realize the effect of it until like after, years later, until you recognize your own stuff. You're like, whoa. We like to say stuff toxic, not to realize like we're still purging the toxicity out of our own body from our own vessel. And so that was the biggest thing, again, where that experience happened with that person, to where I was like, yo, what am I doing? Like, hold on, you've done nothing to me. But at the same moment, it was the awareness around how that I have not been so used to an experience consistently when you talk about trust, being embraced, nurtured, all of these things that reflect some type of stableness. And we'll literally, due to our unfulfilled desires, or unresolved traumas, instability, emotionally and so forth. And sometimes it's not even our faults. It's what we have inherited. And literally, we'll go seek out these things. We'll go sexually, we'll go have intercourse with this woman and so forth without a sense of awareness of, that really having a ripple effect. She's opening herself up, not really knowing her worth, knowing her value, opening herself up to someone who's not as stable as she is emotionally, mentally, and so forth. Me recognizing even throughout my years, why hasn't stability came in this certain area? Because the divine said, I want to show you, I want to let you know the depths of that. Because you came from a matriarchal. Can you recognize a pattern of why your mother hasn't been stable? Why hasn't that been? Then when I look into the chakra system, when you look into this relational connection, this generational connection, this matriarchal patriarchal connection, why, and this is a connection to generational curse breaker, why isn't this person having, it's not so much so obtain things in the material, but it connects to that, but you realize the connection to that spiritually. You realize then the generational curse breaking. Then you realize like, oh, I'm the first to do this. I'm the first to address this. So what that does is that energy comes up, leaves the body, because it can no longer, it kept the score, but now you up in the score. Now you realizing like, okay, now I became aware of this. Now I have to do it differently. Why didn't my mother, why has this have not, why hasn't this thing been so stable or secure? Why did I meet that person? This is why you can see a lot of, naturally with a lot of women, how they're been more in their masculinity. They've been more assertive than they need to be, rather than resting in that femininity, to be assertive in that masculinity. But again, due to generational things, same with men, this has also been a thing from my mother. So that's why I'm able to tell women like, look, I can see you. At the same time, the women that I know, they have been more assertive from a wounded place to where they feel like, oh, I gotta go out here, I gotta do this for my kids, I gotta go out here. And so in that wounded space, they forgot about their true essence of what the femininity actually reflects. So with that, they have not allowed themselves to rest. So when you don't allow yourself to rest, then you will affect everything around you. So you don't want to see that man rest. You don't want to see that man or that little boy rest in his femininity, so he learns to be assertive in a healthy way. Same thing with men. A lot of us, and I realized that the peace that I didn't obtain is because my mother never gave me a foundation or a blueprint of what peace is or what emotional intelligence is. And by that man being removed, he never showed me how a man should move. And even if he did, when you look at the culture and what we've been given, a lot of these men who call themselves men who are not in tune with their femininity or with their femininity and honor that femininity and seeing the stableness in that, how it's ever changing, how it's, the majestic aspect of what a lion, certain animals or certain things represent in a spiritual sense, is because they know when to rest. A lot of these coaches and a lot of this rap, a lot of this stuff in the music was literally perpetrated or purposely put into those kids so they move a certain way without really honoring the fact of like the feminine part of them. So of course it's going to be geared towards, using that feminine force in an aggressive way, in an overgiving way. So this is why you can have a man, like my experience, overgiving from a wounded place if I have not realized the importance of the femininity, overgiving sexually to a woman. Same thing with women. You will find a woman overgiving herself to a man who's not equally yoked. But the beauty of this is that what has happened is that, what if I told you that you had to meet this person just for them to mirror back to why you need to be secure within yourself, why you need to balance said chakra, why you need to look into this, whatever your spiritual journey is or practice, or whatever it is your lifestyle is, leading you back to you. why you had to meet that person to have that child or have that experience. Can you see the awareness on it coming full circle to where you need to be within you? Have you found you in that relationship? That's why it had to be karmic. That's why it had to be a lesson. Have you found you in that? Where did you lose you? Can you go back into your childhood and see why? When I see a lot of these young men and I see a lot of these young women, and when I see the focus like lower nature or just simply why, I can easily see the programming. I can easily see why they just show off their lower nature of their body. That's it, because that's all they know. That's all they've been programmed to believe. And these little girls actually believe that's how a little boy would want them. Same thing with men. They're programmed, little boys are programmed, that's how. Somebody was saying, my partner was saying the other day, like, you remember that little Melania song, like, Kissing, you know, something in the tree. First come the baby, first come something, the baby, then come, no, first come marriage, then come the baby, then come something, yeah, the baby in the carriage or something. And it's like, we don't even realize the melodies, there's a lot of shit we've been given. Like, that's supposed to be everybody's life. No, it's not. So, again, when you are becoming aware of the said journey you're on, you are said generational curse breaker. You are here to pioneer something completely different. This is how I became aware. As I became more emotionally in tune, I realized my approach to the femininity within myself and to the approach to the femininity externally. Meaning that the femininity within and then the masculine approach externally. So, and that's the thing that I realized, that the vital piece, again, look at what we've been given. Look at what we've been given as a society, as humanity. Look at what we've been given. And a lot of things, as much as we don't want to like it and accept it, it literally is just restoring balance. You don't have to like that person that's in that seat, in that political place. You don't have to like that teacher. You don't have to accept such and such certain thing. Okay, what can you do differently? How are you going to respond to that? Isn't that beyond your control? What can you do? What can you do differently? How will you approach it now? That's the beauty of lessons. That's the thing. Again, it was so deep for me, like again, 6'3", 6'4", I'm like 95 pounds. So naturally, I've had to accept that I was given this vessel. I was given this voice. I was given these gifts. I was given these generational curses to bring more awareness, to bring a pioneering approach, so that after that moment happened with someone recently, I told myself, like, yo, I really have never been nurtured, because after the interaction, you know, a lot of us aren't approached. I realized how I was never approached in my childhood after I was whooped, after I was beaten. I was never approached and embraced. I was never given an apology. And that's why I realized a lot of my anger. A lot of our mothers and fathers or caregivers, a lot of these people took that anger or that frustration to their, I'm gonna just use the term grave. They never had their mothers and fathers apologize for, you know, the traumas that were projected onto them, or the things that were projected onto them. And so during their childhood, they're literally reenacting this. During their childhood experience, and then they reenact this behavior pattern with us. Literally with us. And so for me, I didn't know I was gonna be this size, but I had to become aware of, like, there were some people that did not deserve how I treated them. Now I have to see the awareness of, like, I did not deserve how they treated me when I go to look at my childhood. So the awareness of it all coming full circle, what can my approach be now to bring awareness to this? To see how and what is really going on, why we're really treating each other like this, and how can we treat not only other people differently, but ourselves better. And it's so deep because, you know, a lot of us, especially, you know, I realized to the depths of, like, when I laid there after, and that person was like, you know, are you okay? You know, and then I literally had to tell them, like, yo, I realized, like, at 35, I was never nurtured. I never had a nurturing mother. And what's so deep about it is, like, the anger and the frustration coming up around the fact of, like, having to work through these emotions almost seamlessly alone. I couldn't reach out to this person and say, like, all I ever wanted was a hug or to be nurtured, because I'm at this place now that I'm at this age. Like, you can't go back and get that. You can't make that happen. And this is where it's so tough for a lot of people, because they want that so much than any money, career, any status. They want so much of a healthy dynamic with their mother and father. And you have people who will continuously go back and forth, teeter-totter, because they were never shown or don't even know how to cut that tide or let go or to move on from that. And that was one of my greatest lessons as a generational curse breaker, is to realize, like, having to let go of that within myself, that connection to that unhealthiness that kept that fuel, that fire, almost, that kept that whatever it was, like that energetic pull between my mother and I. She was never going to do it. And I don't know who need to hear this. Your mother and father, whomever it is, that relationship, some of them don't even know how to let go. They're never going to do it. And some of us as generational curse breakers, or just whatever you want to use the term, you have to be the trailblazer or the pioneer. You have to be the one to walk away. And with that, it can be so frustrating and challenging. It don't have to be painful, but however you have to, what's the saying? However you have to grieve or get through that, you know, it's a part of this human experience. It's a part of the process. But that was deep for me because, you know, I realized in these connections, we don't realize, like, a lot of us aren't aware that in these connections, once I start to see the inner child aspect in a little boy and girl, I start to now recognize why people act the way they do in these relationships. And I can immediately see the trauma response. I can immediately see there is something rooted in probably childhood trauma or some type of traumatic experience to why they even hold on, why they don't want to let go, why they, you know, stay in something too long, or even the suffering around the suffering they create and they don't even recognize is because they've normalized the suffering and they stay in it. And so how that can affect not only them, but if they're in a family dynamic, how can it can affect the children. And that's personally, like, from the experience that I've seen growing up. And it's all they know. And it's not I don't just see the adult. Then I look back now, I'm able to recognize, like, the little girl and my mother, my grandmother, and, you know, just women that I know, even men. It's all they know. And that's where the grace comes in. It's all they know. And they're not ready to give that up, because to them, that's all they have. That's all they have. And to a lot of people, that's not only is it all they know and that's all they have, they're so used to the experience that they don't even realize that how the body has kept the score, how both of them are in something, or they can be in something to where they're comfortable with the replaying and reenacting of this character that just simply is toxic and traumatic, or literally they're rooted in that traumatic experience. So they don't know nothing else. They don't want nothing else. They don't want better out of life. And the reason I love spreading these messages or sharing it is because it's a way of showing you I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't want to be better for me. As frustrating as it has been, even in certain relationships and stuff, I had to decide, just as anyone else that was on the receiving end, they deserve better. And in deserving better, you have to be better. You have to learn to be better for you, healthier for you. And if we haven't grown up in healthy environments, how can we say, when I look at humanity, they don't know what healthiness look like? Y'all don't. Shit, I didn't even know what it looks like. I'm just now at 35 realizing like what it is to grow up or get up in a home where it's okay for it not to be, or be in environments where it's okay for it not to be combative. That doesn't mean that memories and certain things don't resurface, or the anxiety from the traumas from the body keeping the score don't come up. And that's the only difference from demographics. There you have that. That's probably gonna be a gem for a lot of you. Even though I'm not in the same demographics or environment, doesn't mean that I'm not still faced with certain anxieties or traumas or things that, because my body has kept the score over the years. And so even in an environment, just because people move away doesn't mean that they're not isolating themselves purposefully. Too much of that isolation or seclusion is really keeping them from that human interaction to really look at themselves. And that's what a lot of this awakening is about, is that people not recognizing that the fact of these interactions, whether it be one-on-one or whether it be your personal interaction, is to recognize the unhealthy aspect of who we are to create a healthy version of who we are. And humanity hasn't seen the consistency of where's your healthy leaders? Where are your empowering leaders? Where are your empowering teachers? Where are these people or beings who enforce or create safe environments, not just for kids, but for adults that have the little boy and girl within them? Where are these environments where you look? Where are these environments or foundations where it leads you to a place of finding inner peace, or finding a place of balance and stillness and harmony, where it doesn't keep your mind overactive, where it doesn't keep you in an unstable, or, when you look at the housing system. I was telling my partners, I said, those of you that, can correlate or connect, know about the chakra system or, the earth and so forth, those that, believe in that belief system of, the earth having chakra systems and an energetic aspect. This is speaking on the level that, again, ain't nobody forcing nobody to take on this. It's the beauty of what's being restored now in these moments, is that there are things happening purposefully to bring awareness, to bring people together, to bring people back home to themselves. We have been so far from ourselves that we think home is literally where we live. And there's a saying that goes, home is where the heart is. We have been, as humanity, as people, been so disconnected from ourselves, from the essence of who we truly are, that we have no idea what essence really is, or actually what authenticity or integrity. We have allowed, collectively, said people, and that's the thing, it's like, what was that in relationships? Like, it's what you allow. You teach people how to love you. You teach people. And even with that awareness is that some of us were taught how to love, and it wasn't even an integrated, authentic way. So now we're coming into the awareness of like, okay, now that we're aware, this is where the boundaries comes in. This is where the boundaries, not only for ourselves, but the boundaries, the healthy boundaries that we are accountable for to implement for this generation to come. And to do it now. This is where that rebellion comes in. This is where the upheaval comes in, where, again, we're seeing what's happening, but at the same moment, where are your so-called athletes, people who are going to be everyone's going to be held accountable energetically, karmically. Doesn't matter who you are. When I see the jujitsu system, when I see anything, when I see certain people now, it's like they can't outrun karma. Karma is universal. It's an energetic thing. So what people have literally put out in these few years, in their generation and so forth, it is going to. So my thing is that the integrity, there is nothing that can no longer and will not be hidden. So the beauty of this is that the standing in, there's things that we're here to stand for, and the spiritual justice of things, to see things have played out in the physical. No, nothing has gone, there will be no stone uncovered. Did I say that correct? Yeah. No stone would be uncovered. Well, yeah, I think I said that correctly. Yeah. Basically, the veil has been lifted. So where I'm getting at is, again, as much as when I look at humanity, or when I look at how even social media, a lot of things, it's like immediately we will cast judgment or say so many things about people or certain things when we know nothing about nothing. And what I mean, it's like you will see literally people just bully and have no awareness again. Like, well, what is your belief system? Even if your belief system, is it even in integrity, authenticity? And so again, the things I share with y'all is to show, like, where are your leaders? And I mean starting at your home, your father and mother. The same way you want to hold yourself accountable, why aren't you holding your mom? You want to hold these celebrities accountable. You quick to judge them. Why you ain't holding your mom and daddy accountable? Them celebrities, or even people that you know nothing about, have done nothing to you purposefully. Why are you letting them dictate so much of your life? So then when you start to realize how the powers that used to be were putting stuff in people's face just to put the energy towards these people that have done nothing for you personally. There's no difference. That I ask myself, why should I care about how someone perceives me or anything else when there's nothing they can do, or they can project, but I'm able to detect the bullshit from a mile away. So again, why would I let that foundation be realizing, like, a lot of these foundations are crumbling and already have, because of the false sense of integrity and authenticity. So if you have lived through authenticity and been living in integrity, where's there the question? Where's there the worry? What are we afraid of? There's nothing to be, man, look, the confidence is amazing right now. If you ain't learned by now how confident you should be in standing 10 toes down for you, and then aligning with those who reflect that, there's nothing to worry about at all. Those who have not been living in it, you're gonna see, like, it's amazing, man, how now, again, as much as we want to hold everybody accountable, where's the energy around holding ourselves accountable? And those that we know that aren't implementing things that stand on integrity, authenticity, truth, peace, and harmony, unity. Where y'all at? Y'all steady yelling from the bleachers. That goes for everybody. So yeah, these are really, I sit back, I'm like, these are exciting moments for the new world, a new age, whatever you want to call it, the newness, the renewal almost. So yeah, that's all I have today. Take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.